I'm here with Michael Conley, President CEO of MJC Strings. And we're coming to you from the Nashville Summer NAMM Show 2015. And we're about to have a conversation with the legendary Mr. Chuck Rainey.
And I am very happy to be here. My very, very close friend was Mike Conley, and I've always been a fan of Rocco. We spent some time together on tour way back in the day, and it's great to see you here. We're both lucky to be here.
Yeah, well, I was going to comment on that. I wanted to kind of start this out and kind of get it out of the way. And it's like, you know, all three of us have had some pretty serious medical issues, and you know, I thought people might want to be interested in hearing where you're at now and how you're doing and stuff like that.
Well, I'm doing very well now. I've been very, very lucky in that I had a very serious stroke, and was told that I was not going to recover because of my age, which was the wrong thing to say to me, or the right thing to say to me. But I've always been very, very healthy, and I went through a very serious and long rehab, and now I'm 4 years out from my stroke, and I feel great. I lost a lot of weight that I didn't need, and my mind was always very active. I just couldn't play for 2 years. You know, of course, through rehab and a whole lot of dedication. It was not easy.
I bet.
It was not easy at all. So I'm happy to be here. It's always best to be seen and not viewed. I always say because I'm very, very close to it, you know. And then hearing about your issues and your issues, we're all getting older. And a lot of people think that older people cannot survive or continue. So I'm glad that you and I particularly are proving them wrong.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that.
I'm Mike Conley, and I'm just a very fortunate and very, very, very lucky person. I'm a bass player myself, and to be sitting in between, probably in my opinion, the two greatest bass players, and not only just for playing the bass, but for what their creative processes do, their contribution to the bass world. I have a little string company. It's called MJC Ironwork Strings, and Rocco works with us, and I'm just absolutely blessed to be here. And what these guys have done in their lives, you know, I think a lot of bass players, when they hear something, they don't quite get exactly what the little nuances are that you know, that go on, that really influence you. And there's just a couple of, one thing that Chuck and I were talking about earlier was from his early days, and what a legacy this gentleman has, was a tune, Aretha, Rock Steady. And it's just a dun, dun, ba-da-da-dun, dun, dun, dun. And then there was a lick that he threw in there, which was ba-da-dun, ba-da-da-dun, dun, dun, dun. That one little ba-da-dun, I heard that for 20 years, where people put that little tiny one beat of creativity into their arsenal. And that's what both of these gentlemen do. You know, I've been blessed to watch Rocco record and see the creative process. And this is what I really think the essence of bass is. I mean, we all play, but it's the influences, it's the creative process that comes out of these gentlemen. I mean, I could personally go on for hours about, because I know their works very, very, very well. But that's what we really want to dive into, is those little nuances that sometimes are hard to explain, but there's some blessed thing, because bass players get a beat or two to put their signature on it. And these are two branded signature players. And in my opinion, in the groove world, because there's so many different kind of bass players out there that NAMM shows, you know, you go there and it's wowie zowie, you're going on the Ferris wheel, but this is the nuts and bolts to this day, what popular music is about. And it's the groove, and these are the masters of it.
Well, that's very kind words, Mike. I was curious, Chuck, you know, I always get asked the question, what's it like playing with this drummer, that drummer, and so on. And you've played with so many, you know. I mean, I've been fortunate to play with basically one most of my life. I have played with others, but not nearly the vast amount that you have. I was curious, what do you look for, And do you have somebody that stands out in particular that works well with you, where you feel the magic right away?
Well, I would say first, to talk about that, I'm from Youngstown, Ohio. And when I was a kid coming up playing trumpet, I also played in a marching band. So I've always been a drummer, playing field time. I never really played a trap set. I've always been into the groove of the drum cadence, and I play field toms in the drum corps. Sticks a little bit heavier than a regular drum. I always hear the field tom plays a part in the drum corps that's like the baritone horn in organized music. It's a different part that coincides with the original groove. And when I was coming up, there was a drummer in Youngstown named Cedric Hobbs, who was a jazz drummer. And I started listening to jazz probably when I was maybe 14 or 15 as a trumpet player. And Cedric Hobbs, I always watched the way he swung and would have me leaving swinging. And as I began to play with drummers as a bass player, I've always remembered Cedric. Matter of fact, he's still alive. He's up in age now, but we still are friends. He never knew that a little kid like me was watching him. And he feels very, very honored that I still mention him. You know, great drummer, very nice man too. And I started working professionally, and then the first drummer that I began to play with, that it was just magic, I would play just like him if I were a drummer, as Bernard Purdy. I would play just like him. And in my New York days, I played with him more than anybody else.
That's great to hear.
When I got to LA, James Gaston, Harvey Mason were the people that I worked with a whole lot. And it's an immediate magic in that once the music starts, they play, say if the groove is like I hear 16th notes. I hear the drum corps because they do it in their playing. You can hear the nuances, which are very subtle, and I play that way. When I play, I kick back little extra little things because I'm still thinking I'm a drummer. And to this day, I play the bass like it's a drum. But the drummers have been very important.
So very percussive.
Very percussive, but rhythmic more than anything else. We call our company Rhythm Intensive. And my partner is a drummer from the Bronx, Puerto Rico from the Bronx. Plays very, very well. Very experienced, and he does the same thing. Because he's been around a lot of influences from Afro, Cuban, Latin, and the New York thing. But I hear nuances, even if they're not being played. I hear the nuances that Bernard would play, or that Gatson would play. Another great trumpet I played with a lot is Steve Gadd. Steve Gadd is a very dominant, smooth drummer. He keeps very good time, but you can hear the nuances. It gives me food for energy to put my little,
It fits, it tucks in.
Yeah. And they inspire you to play things that you normally would not play.
Exactly. That's why I like playing with percussion players as well, for that reason. Because they bring another texture to it.
Yeah, and give you ideas.
Yeah, that's right.
Or unless they keep you in mode, they keep you in that groove, which is a continuous furrow.
That's it.
We can't stop playing.
No.
A drummer can't stop. Guitar players, they can stop. Piano players, they can. But the drummer and the bass player have to keep that continual motion going, which I like. Because I'm a strong guy, I'm a pretty big guy, but I love supporting being the bass player or the drummer. And I'm the drummer on bass, I think. I think. When I first got to New York, there was a noise ordinance in Manhattan where it didn't have drums because of noise. And then you see George Vivier, Milt Hinton, other great bass players, Richard Davis. You see them in trios and quartets with no drum. And the bass players keeping time. And so you hear the Milt Hinton, like how they skip. The little skips and bumps. They said, we got the stumble, boy. Stumble and skip, they keep the motion going, without drums, So I come up thinking I'm a drummer on bass. I'm glad you asked that question because the people that I just mentioned were really very great groove drummers. Gatson, Harvey Mason, Steve Gadd, Bernard Purdy. I'm probably leaving out some drummers, but those come to mind.
I got a chance to play with Bernard a couple times, but Steve, I've seen him in yeah, the other guys I've never played with.
Mm.
But yeah, Bernard is. I mean, that's where Garibaldi comes from, that school as well.
You know, Dave, when I listen to all of the Tower stuff, one thing about him reminds me a little bit of Andy Newmark. You know Andy Newmark?
I don't.
Andy Newmark played with Sly for a moment.
Really?
And he's a left-handed drummer. Billy Cobham, I also must say.
Okay.
And that they're left-handed drummers, or they play a different kind of set. So the grooves that the average player would play, they're playing the grooves like Garibaldi. He's playing like he's left-handed, or he's playing something opposite, what the normal person plays, and that really excites me.
He has a tendency to he'll start one instead of like a normal drummer would start one.
Mm-hmm.
He would start one on a splash or
Right.
someplace there. He would start one in a whole nother place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it take a minute. The groove is there, you can hear it, but it takes a minute to feel it.
Yeah.
Because it comes from such a different place.
Yeah. But that's what makes the music very
Oh, it's
successful.
beautiful. It's great. Yeah.
Very
You know what's interesting about you and what people's perception of Tower of Power, David Garibaldi, David, he's just one of those specially gifted people. He's ambidextrous, I think. He can play left and right. But there's a lot of people that I know, in my little circles that say, well, it's the drummer that's creating all that stuff. But the interesting point about you and all the Tower stuff, and I know the library, is you've played with how many different drummers over the 6 or 7 different, on the albums, on the tours, but it's always been the Rocco bass part. So drummers even playing halftime, like Herman on some of the stuff, the Rocco parts, the Rocco sound of that always prevailed through it all. So there's a part of it that was your collaboration with Garibaldi, but then the Rocco part of it, which is really, to me, the driving force of the thing, surpasses with all the drummers.
I think he's a little biased because we were all bass players.
But it's good to hear 3 bass players talk this way.
Yeah.
Again, too, like you've said a lot of very kind things about me. I really appreciate it. I love to play the bass, and I'm glad that it shows. But in looking at what you do, you're already a habit in their mind. You're already known. So they play to you. They play to you. So your style demands that people play to you. So you're in a very, very, I'll call it a good place. So people come to play with you.
I call it fortunate.
Yeah.
I was lucky to come up and play with an organization long enough to be able to actually develop a style. They came very natural, but it was still being with somebody that long enables you to do that.
And everybody knows it. If you're a guitar player or a drummer, they know when they come to play with you who you already are. So you have that luxury. Same way with me.
I never looked at it that way.
Neither have I. And it's a good thing that you don't.
Yeah.
Because the people that do, they're real. What can I say without really being
Narcissistic. They develop a
They're a
narcissism
a
about
pain in the ass.
Yeah.
In that the shit is what it is.
Well, like you were saying earlier, people start believing their own press, and it's unfortunate. A lot of great guys out there, not just bass players, but musicians in general. They for some reason they grab onto this thing, and they got people in their ear telling them that they're this. It's like, that's all the wrong reasons why you got in this business in the first place.
And then you never know that, because a lot of people get in it to be this.
Well, and that's unfortunate too.
It is, because they're not listening to the music.
Yeah.
Everybody that comes to me in clinic or friends, and they ask me questions about what I did and how I did it, I say, I don't know.
A lot of it.
All I did was just play. I did not try to do this. I did not lay. My signature is just the way I smile or walk or what I do. I don't try and do anything. It wasn't always that way. Because at one time I did try and do things, and I had people say, Rainey, that's too much, or that's not necessary. And I've always been the kind of person, thanks to my mom and dad and where I come from, when somebody is disapproving of what you're doing, you just don't do it. especially if they hired you.
That's right.
You know, you just do something else. Like a Jerry, I've watched people. Good example, Jerry Wexler. So much a part of my career. Can't dance, knows nothing about music, but he was the vice president of Atlantic Records.
That's right.
And he was a producer. And so a lot of times producers, like the Motown producers, they think that they're more than what they are. And he has a crew, his friends in the control room, and he's the producer, so he comes out to produce. And so he'll come up to me and say, Chuck, baby, you know, give me, give me something with this air bass. You know, give me whatever he's saying. Just give me
This is
blah, blah.
Motown?
No, Atlantic.
Oh, okay.
You know, give me, whatever the case may be. And all I do is whatever I was doing here, I do it here. That's it, baby. But you see, we understand these things.
Yeah.
You know, Atlantic Records really took care of my behind because I know where he's coming from.
Yeah.
He makes a record. I know you're doing this record, it's going to be a success. They're going to keep calling me. You know, you got to play a particular game. But see, it's not a game. I love to play the bass.
Yeah.
So like if you say that you want something different, I got something for you. I got another, it's like the drum corps. Drum corps has four drum sections. They're playing different parts. And the bass drum is playing whatever. So you got 4 different things that you can play that fit. 4 different things. So if you don't like what I'm doing, it's just find something else that fits. And plus, I'm a very simple player. A lot of people think that I play a lot of notes, but I don't. I play a lot of rhythm on a few notes that I do play. And it's a style. That's what Jameson too. Yeah. He played 1-5-1. Bernadette is the example of James Jameson.
I had a guy tell me early when I was still a kid. I was like in my late teens, and playing in the Bay Area, just getting started. And there was this band that we would check out. They were rehearsing, and I started talking to this bass player. And to me, he was like a lot older. He was a great player. And he came on and he said, "Listen, kid, all you gotta remember is one, the thirds, and the fifths, and octave." And he said, "Hey, you're a bass player."
Country music will show you.
And I never forgot that. I never forgot that. It's because there's a lot of truth to it. But you're right. Because I'm very busy, or perceived to be busy. But you're right. I don't play a whole lot of notes, but I just play a lot of stuff within.
Within a few notes that you play. Yeah. You're a drummer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because David plays with a lot of 16ths on the snare. So I mean, it just goes like that. It's just
and it's
magical. It is magical.
It's that rhythm. Also, too, you work with people that a lot of people think that we have to be friends to play. We don't. I mean, social friends.
No.
We have to be in the same frame of mind with rhythm.
Well, we do need to be respectful.
Yeah.
And we need to know how to talk to each other. That is a must, no matter what.
In the music, like you look at the New York rhythm section that I played with, we did not socialize.
Well, a lot of guys, I mean, I don't want to see them off the stage.
But as soon as you sit down to play,
yeah,
it's like another whole thing.
That's right.
When you play, you're going to the bar, you're going to this one, you're doing this, and I'm going here. We don't. Every now and then we do get together.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, like once they say 1, 2, 3, go, there has to be an understanding that we're like a basketball team. You know, we have to play together. If we don't, we're not going to hire it again. Or it may be your fault, but they fire me.
Yeah.
Or they might be my fault and they fire you.
Yeah.
But smart producers know where the problem is. I always tell people there's no reason for you and the drummer to have any kind of argument. You do the best you can. If he doesn't hear that he's wrong or right, then whoever hired you, it's their problem.
That's a fact.
It's their problem. I see too many people.
Good producer doesn't talk much.
Nope. No, they don't. All they do is hire and fire.
Well, I mean, if you let people do what they do naturally, you're going to get the best out of them. But if you sit there and you try to hammer, do this, or try to fit that round peg in a square,
it ain't going to work.
It ain't going to work.
Good producers also, too, know who to put together. That's what makes people like Jerry Katz, Quincy Jones, and I can go down many more. If they don't know, they have somebody in their office that knows who ain't going to get it. Right. Andy Newmark came to do a Ricky Jones album, and I won't go too far with this, but he didn't fit the first session. They immediately got rid of him and hired Steve Gadd because they knew what was going on. They have an open budget. She doesn't have a budget. She can work as long as she wants to. But when she's not, when the producer, Lenny Waronker, or Russell Tiedemann and Lenny Waronker, Warner Brothers, you see that it ain't going to work with this one guy, you pay him and send him home. That's right. You know, sometimes, because they know who they hired. Sometimes they guess on, well, this may work, this may work. But that's why you find so many of the same people on a lot of records. Yeah. Because the producers are smart. You have success with this group, you produce a record, you're smart if you go to his rhythm section. And it doesn't mean that that person isn't qualified to play, but just not here. Yeah. It's that kind of thing. Yeah. It's like what works on Monday ain't necessarily going to work on Wednesday. That's right. It's a very interesting profession. I was curious about one thing. I know you've done some solo albums. How many? I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 or 5. 4 or 5. And didn't you just release one in the last year? Yes, I did. Which I want to give to you, by the way. Okay. And you want to talk about that a little bit? Well, I've always had my take on hit records. All right. Thank you. I've always had my take on how, if it were up to me, how I would have did it. And these are records that I didn't play on. But to hear oldie but goodies. Yeah. And coming up in New York, we always took a song that was popular and a hit and turned it around. If it had tempo, we played it as a ballad. Live, I'm talking about playing it live in clubs. Play reggae, or play a ballad, play it up tempo, swing it, or play it funky. We've always done that. And so when I did, these are my last 2 records. And one is a compilation, by the way, of past stuff. But the interpretation of a groove, that's the one that I'm singing. People don't know me to sing. They don't know that I sing. Yeah, I know. I heard a little bit of that. I was quite taken back by it as well. Every time I hear it, I'm taken back because I love to do that. Now, some stuff I can't. It's hard for a bass player to sing and play unless you're singing. It is. I can't even imagine the kind of stuff I play. I can't. Well, you know, I was told by a friend in Texas that all you got to do is just start trying it. And sooner or later, maybe you'll get it. I admire Sting. Good bass player. Very good bass player. And he's a good singer. But the kind of stuff that I do from the environment that I come from has all been around African music, Latin music, Cuban music, along with a lot of rhythm. You know, a lot of rhythm. And in doing this record, one of my favorite songs of Papa was Rolling Stone. Except that I got so sick and tired of hearing everybody play dum 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 dum, the same old thing. If you're going to record somebody else's song, do something else with it. So what I did was I did something else with it, boy. I took it in another direction. It's very, very, very interesting. If you don't hear the lyric, it could be any song. The same way with Brick House. So tired of hearing everybody do Brick House. I said it with a band last night. They wanted me to. I said, I don't play that. Call something else. Yeah. But that's and that whole record is not like that because there are some originals there. I like a lot of rhythm and a good strong drummer. And sometimes living where I live, it's kind of hard to get some of the guys from either coast to come in and play. Because it does cost money. Yeah, it used to. I'm in Dallas. And so, if a drummer's got good time, the drummer's records from New Orleans, he played with a group called Point Blank. Yeah. Well, Buzzy was a drummer at Point Blank from New Orleans, a real good drummer. Keeps good time, but he gets that off thing. Yeah. That sounds like a New Orleans drummer would do every now and then, but a good solid drummer. And a good friend, because I worked with 3 of those members for about a year in Dallas. after they disbanded the group.
That was some killer stuff, man.
What for?
That you were doing.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I thought it was too. But a lot of times
It was really, really different.
like
really
when we
different.
think it's happening, sometimes it ain't happening. But like I do like that record.
Well, let me ask you. You've played so many different genres of music. Is there something that you lean to more than the rest? I mean, do you enjoy playing rock and roll, or would you rather play R&B, or I mean, where's your like?
I don't care
Really, it's just like that.
because I'm the same guy on all those genres. I say that a lot. I'm a 1-5-1 player. 1-3-5, 1-5-6, 1-5-7, 1-5-7. The chord looks the same way on our bass as it does on the guitar. You know,
But the
1-3.
music lends itself differently, though, right?
Yeah, but rhythmically, it's the same thing. You know what it is, Rocco? Reggae. Dum 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 dum. 1-5-1, ba-dum 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 bum ba-dum bum ba-dum ba-dum dum ba-dum bum ba-dum dum ba-dum dum dum 6-5. It doesn't matter as long as it fits the groove.
Right.
Because I don't try and do anything that anybody else does. I've tried to play Rocco, and I do it kind of. I think I do it well because I kick back and forth. You know, I like when it works. But that doesn't work all the time. But sometimes it fits all genres because of 1-5-1. You know, it's a reggae.
That's very interesting.
Or I call it a biome. Dum 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 bidum ding dum bidum dum dum dum. It's on everybody's record.
I just never heard it said quite that way. That's very interesting.
It's just, every
Because
time
me personally, I don't know if I'd be comfortable playing some other style music that I'm actually just not into.
Mhm.
You know?
Well, you see, I don't have any preference. What I don't like is when a man loves a woman. I'm tired of what's the jazz song? There's a jazz song everybody plays. I can't stand it.
Yeah, some things are just.
That's not bad. That's not that bad.
That's overdone too. I mean,
It is
come on.
overdone. But I like. You know what I really like. Now that I'm thinking about it, I like the swing.
Swing.
And I've never been asked to really play jazz, but I've done a lot of jazz in New York. And one of the things I was extremely proud of, I did a record. I was really close to Gary McFarlane in Cal Chater. Did a lot of recordings with them. And he produced a record on Lena Horne and a Zabel called Watch What Happens. And because we were social friends, he hired me, although it was a jazz record. And on the front of the record, like when you listen to this, which I'm very proud to say this, it sounds like an upright bass, but it's not. It's me and my old P bass. And the way that I'm walking, still thinking of the chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, boom, ding, boom, boom, just playing it with, I think, 1, 2, 3, boom, 2, 3, boom, and then 1, 2, it's the same thing. Watching George Duvivier and not Ray Brown, George Duvivier and Milt Hinton and Richard Davis, and going to their gigs and watching them play. The difference between them and Mingus was I never understood Mingus. But Mingus was also a very nice man to me. My Fender bass was the first bass that he ever played that wasn't upright.
Oh yeah.
He sat it on a bar stool and
Played like an upright.
and played Sweet and Lovely.
That's funny.
I didn't know who he was at the time. But anyway, getting back to the jazz, and Watch What Happens is a rolling jazz song. I always wanted that, but King Curtis, we played everything. And so I knew that I could walk, because we had to play all kinds of gigs. And so on that recording, I was very proud to be able to swing. When the record came out, everybody thought it was Ray Brown, until they read the liner notes. And then I started walking like George Jefferson. They thought it was
Moving
Ray
on
Brown.
up.
You know, but they thought it was Ray Brown, but it was me. So I really got a kick out of that. So I do like the swing.
Speaking of which, did you do any of those TV bass lines? Did you do Sanford and Son?
Yeah.
You
One of
did
my
do that.
favorites. Yeah.
Because you know, it's funny. I met a bass player, and he swore up and down that he was the one who did it.
Who was it?
I can't remember. It was just a few years ago. I can't remember,
Mm.
but he claimed that he was the one who did it. And so I didn't know that.
That to me,
I love that.
that
It's like,
with
I
all
always
the,
do.
the trickery,
Now
maybe
I like
that's
it
not
better.
the right
Now
word.
I like it better.
But with all the in the first 4 bars of that song, there is a complete Chuck Rainey signature. Ba-do-do-do, where you do the slide, and then the syncopation
Did
and
they-
the chords. Do-do-do-do-do, ba-do-do-do-do, ba-do-do-do.
Mm.
Did they let you run with that?
Quincy
Jones.
Quincy is one of the smartest people that ever lived in our industry. This is his style. You go into the studio, you have blank music paper. He asks you to quarter off 4 bars, 4 measures per bar. And then he makes up changes. Just try 4 bars of this, 4 bars of this, and let's at the end of the 7th bar, it's go and you slash and you do a letter A and letter B are always the same, and then you mix the part up. And then he says, all of his films doing this in the early 70s, I was his bass player. Matter of fact, he took me out of New York. I left New York to go with Quincy. His style was this. Let's go to Sanford and Son. So this is a sitcom. The Red Fox. Everybody knows who Red Fox was. It's a sitcom. As soon as you say sitcom, it's a comedy. It's something funny. That registers in your head that it's a comedy. This is a great story. And say he does something like like that. Harvey Mason. He said, Mace, give me this on a high heel, or give me some wood. Rainey, give me some wood, or whatever the case may be. And he makes up the part. 10 minutes, you've quartered off a chart. 4 changes. You've already been given a tempo. You've already been given exactly what you're doing. Same with a film that's a serious film. They tell you what the film is about. For some reason, it registers something there that you do. But never right for the rhythm section. Does not right for the bass player, never. Unless it's an ensemble lick that he has put in the orchestration. Does not write for the guitar player. Does not write for the drummer or the piano player.
Interesting.
That's your job. He is an orchestrator.
Right.
And orchestrators usually have a good ear for how to mix. That's what makes him become a producer. And he's got to sit with the engineer about where the horns, where the strings should be. They do the job, the orchestrator. So why not be the producer? But it does not write for the rhythm section at all.
Wow, that's interesting.
In that he has somebody like a Jerome Richardson, or I forget who his contractor was in Hollywood. They find out who the guys are. He doesn't know. He's too busy making records. He didn't know who any of us were. Neither did Walter and Donald, Steely Dan. They never knew who we were.
Wow.
It took Gary Katz to hire the guys that are going to fit, to put up, because they're strange, by the way. They're very strange. But they're strange in a good way. But with Quincy, don't write for rhythm section. Steely Dan, every now and then Walter would come in my ear and say, Chuck, try. Then he'll hum something to me, and then I'll play it. Other than that,
Yeah.
if you hire the right person, and I would figure, this is like blowing my own horn, but I don't like to do that. But if you hire me as a bass player, I definitely got an idea what to play.
Yeah.
I don't always have to be right. Sometimes, a lot of times I
Do you concur with that?
Well, a lot of times I've had to been, people have had to say, well, don't do that, do this, or try this.
Yeah.
And I found that sometimes my idea is not always the best idea.
Well, and I appreciate when they talk to you just like that.
Yeah.
That's so important. I've had people come and, oh man, that do it this way. And it's like, excuse me? You at least talk to me right? You know? I mean,
You're talking to me like I'm a beginner.
Yeah, and not only that, you're
That's
talking
a really
down to
good
me.
point.
Yeah.
You're not talking to me with any kind of respect. That just throws me right
Let me
there.
tell you another story. Ray Brown calls me up one day. For about 2 years, he was Quincy's manager. A lot of people don't know that. And Ray Brown produced records. And Ray calls me up, and he wants me to come to a session as a record player. So of course I'm in the band, and I'm Quincy's electric bass player. Well, I got so many stories about this that it'll knock your socks off because I was not always correct in some of the things that I did. But because of either the way I carry myself or because of the love or for whatever it was, I managed to hang on. Let me get away from that. Ray calls me, so I get ready, and it's at the last minute, which usually does not happen in Hollywood. When you get a studio call, it's for 2 weeks in advance. So I want to make sure they have it. Anyway, this is the last minute thing. I go to the record plant, and there's nobody there but me and Ray Brown and the engineer. So I just come from New York, have a New York attitude going, but although I'm very professional about what it is, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, this is an overdub.
Right.
Now, if it's an overdub, they have a session without me. So who did they hire? I thought I was the bass player, so it must have been Ray. But then if it was Ray, he wouldn't call me, you know. So I'm sitting there, and for the first hour, he's giving me big time shit about what I'm playing. No, do this. No, do that. No, you should do this. So I say to him, I say, Ray, why don't you play this? Because I ain't feeling what you. But it doesn't take an hour to overdub a song. It takes 10 minutes to overdub a song, whether it's written when you're making it up. If you got a chord chart, it doesn't take longer than 10, 15 minutes to overdub the bass on a song. Well, here we are over an hour, and I'm going back and forth, but he's my friend. And now I'm beginning to get bugged, and I want to hear what the other bass player played. He said, no, you don't want to hear it. It wasn't good at all. He was drunk, he was arrogant, he couldn't read, that kind of thing. It was chord chart. So after about maybe an hour and a half, we finished the song to where now he's not giving me a problem and he's satisfied. Now we go to the second song and the same thing starts. I said, Ray, I'm having a problem with this. You should play this. He said, I don't play the Fender. They call it the electric bass. The old timers called it a Fender. I was playing a Fender, but they call it the electric bass. No, I don't play a Fender. I want you to do this, blah, blah, blah. So maybe a half hour goes by and I insist that I want to know what am I doing that you're not satisfied with. We're going through this. It's too long. And so I get him to play what the other bass player played. And they play it, and it's terrible. Now my ego, my New York ego is saying, who did you hire?
Who was it? Yeah.
How come I wasn't the bass player? You know what he says to me? He says, oh, there's some cat from Motown named J-Mo. He said he couldn't read, he was arrogant, blah, 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 blah. Put the bass off, I put it on the floor. I said, you and I are friends. Let me tell you something. This some cat from Motown named J-Mo happens to be close to being the father of this instrument that I play. He reads very well. He's a great player. The reason you got what you got because you were doing to him what you're doing to me.
Yeah. Wow.
And Jameson, like I said, was a small statue guy. Ray Brown was 6 feet. If Jameson had been your size, he would have punched you right in your mouth. And I know that to be true. Anybody will tell you that. He would have punched you in your mouth. Well, where do you get off telling Jameson, treating him like... He said, well, you and I are friends.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been working in the band together for 2 years.
So is that what they call him, J-Mo?
J-Mo,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I didn't know that.
And said, yeah, some cat from Motown named J-Mo happens to be Jameson.
Wow.
The reason why this bass is in popular music. But you talked down to him. You didn't know who he was. Everybody knows who you are. Every bass player knows who Ray Brown is.
And it shouldn't matter,
It shouldn't, but it does.
Yeah, it does.
It is what it is. But that story, and actually I hipped him to something. You cannot talk down. When we got me and Eric and a few other people left New York and went to LA, they had nicknames for us.
Eric Gale?
Yeah. They had nicknames, everybody from New York. Right now there's a big thing between the two coasts. But when we came to town, we all had nicknames. And blah, 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 blah. And I told him, I said, we come from New York. New York is one of the toughest places in the world to survive. And you people here in California have always had this thing about New York. In New York, we don't give a shit. If you're a good musician, you're a good musician. A lot of great players come out of LA. A lot of them. Mingus came out of LA.
Yeah.
I said, but you got to respect good musicians. You got to respect good musicians. Is that you talk down to a hoodlum. James carried a gun. He's out of Detroit. He was a hoodlum. And if he was your size, he would have punched you right in your mouth for talking down to him. And he said, well, Ray said, am I talking down to you? I said, no, because we're friends. I'm trying to do what you want me to do. He doesn't, you and him are friends. And he happens to be this guy.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was that big.
Huh?
I didn't know he was that big.
Who?
Ray.
Ray's 6 feet.
Yeah.
Well, James Jamerson is at the top of the totem pole
Yeah.
as a bass player.
Right.
You don't know who he is. I know why you hired him, because he has a great reputation. But you don't tell me some guy from Motown named Jamer. And you're treating him the way that you're treating me. He said, thank you, maybe a month later. Bass player, musicians as a whole, a lot of people will never get enough. You got to have more. Morley Saber asked Rockefeller, how much money is too much? His answer was just a little bit more. The same way,
Love to
same
be
way
able
with
to answer
musicians.
that one.
Yeah.
Like a Bernard Purdy, who I love dearly. Ridiculous, his claim. We're in Japan, and we're backstage, and we did not want to go to the autograph table because it was too long. So people would send stuff back to autograph. He's sitting at this end of the table, and so the things come in, and so Anita Shaw's record, Who Is This Bitch Anyway, which is a great album, came by, and he's just big smiley face, Bernard Purdy. And he said, Bernard, why did you do this? Harvey Mason is his drummer. He said, well, I probably overdubbed it.
Yeah, that's a little.
That you don't understand.
Yeah.
Nobody overdubs Harvey Mason. He's the prime premier drummer. Like nobody overdubbed Bernard Purdy.
That's right. That's right.
You know, but they have that kind of thing about it.
Ego.
The ego is just wrong.
Yeah.
But a lot of these things, people will say that they did things.
Well, there's a lot of people that's in our business. I mean, so many egos off the chain that it's like, really? You know, they read.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a quick question. You were asking Chuck about Sanford and Son, which to me it's your ringtone on my phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You also did the Jeffersons and probably Barney Miller and a bunch of others. The point.
Well, no, I didn't do Barney Miller.
Okay, but
I did the source music for Barney Miller.
Okay.
Chuck Berghofer did the title track.
Okay.
And that track is a James Jamerson line from All You Need to Get By.
Oh, really?
By Nick and Valerie.
Oh, wow.
Ba-dum, 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 a diggy dong.
So it's kind of the same deal.
It's the exact same line.
What I wanted to touch on with both of you guys, because I think that, you know, perception is everything. And I think that the perception, especially with you, Rocco, is, you know, people are always talking about the 16th notes, but some of the ballads that you've done, like that Aretha Franklin, that's what I'm gonna do. The bridge in that song
Till you come back.
is about as masterful and as chordal, and
But the
that
bass
song
makes,
just
the bass makes that tune
it just
feel
opens
the
it
way
up.
it does.
It's like
Right.
it's like being in an auditorium. The same for you. Still a Young Man is another masterful song. There's so much soul and energy in the parts that you play, and also in the parts that you don't play. And I think, you know, that people lose perspective of the creative parts that come out of you guys. And I know you're really humble about this, and it's hard for you to talk about it, but there's a place that both of you gentlemen go to. You know, you can't explain it, but there's a place that you go to where things come out. It's like you enter into this little mystery room, and there's just something bouncing around, and it comes out through your fingers. There are things that both of you guys have done that, to me, are absolutely, from a creative standpoint, are mind-blowing. And they're actually, they're so influential to other players, just those one little just little things that you, and I'm still a young man, little things like that, or where you're just playing a whole note.
Should I pay him this time?
Where people are perceiving, because you're always the ghosting guy.
Well, yeah,
right?
I'm always the 16th guy, and you know when I say boo, boo, you know you get that look, and you know.
But there's so much more to it.
It does get old. I mean, you know, it does, sure. You know, because there's a whole lot more in the repertoire.
But you are. You know, you mentioned "Till You Come Back." A lot of people mention that song. Either you're a musician or you're not. There are a lot of wannabes. You got a lot of half-ass people, or a lot of people that are weekend warriors that are good musicians.
Oh, yeah.
But you got a musician, and then you got one who wants to be, but they're not quite a real musician. Till You Come Back is very simple. Number one, the drum pattern until you come back tells me what to play. So that gives me an idea to play ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Now, the way I smile is ding dong, do you ding dong, ding dong. I'm playing.
Smile,
drums.
I like that device.
When it gets to the bridge, every bridge to every song, if you're a musician, changes a little bit.
Yes.
You got your bridge, and then like when you get to the bridge, Richard T plays a big, Donny Hathaway, I should say that, but he plays a big drum. The mood changes. I mean, I can hear it right now. You do something a little different off of what you already did. The person that hired you, who was Jerry Wexler, expects you to understand these things. They never went beyond Richard T, Billy Preston, or Matt, Dr. John. Always the same three piano players. Always use the same piano players. Dr. John, Richard T, and Billy Preston. Because of how they think. Also, too, they're great piano players, by the way. But they're musicians. They hear where things are supposed to change. Arif gets paid as an arranger, but he doesn't arrange anything. All he does is Richard's playing with the original section. Dr. John comes in to make an overdub on the organ. That's the arrangement. He ain't gonna play the same thing that Richard's playing. He plays something to complement it because he's a musician. That's the arrangement. Well, you call him Billy Preston, who's gonna play another instrument. Richard always played the Fender Rhodes. Always played the Fender Rhodes. With Aretha, she always played first, just to show the groove. But then it was always Dr. John or Billy Preston. They come in because they all play the same way. A gospel Pentecostal kind of feel. They're going to play something to complement the piano. I mean the Fender Rhodes. And then for the arrangement, you call in one of the other guys to add a part to it, or don't even play what the original piano player played. To hear what they hear, it's going to be different. That's his arrangement. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. It is what it is. But if you're a musician and you hear a song, you talk about Rocksteady. Rocksteady is a demo. We laid that down before Tommy Dow and Arif and Jerry Wexler before they got to the studio. The limo was late picking them up. So we're sitting down in Miami in the winter, by the way. New York is 0. And we're down in Miami and it's 80 degrees and we're in shorts and we're having fun, ordering foods and whatever. Anyway, so Aretha said, let me teach you the song. Sat down and she taught us the song, and Gene Paul, who does not get enough credit, Les Paul's son, oldest son, he recorded, he did, so let's put it down so when we come in, we can work on it. What you're hearing is the demo that we played before they got in. We worked all day long trying to produce Rocksteady, but what you hear is what we did without them being there. In that she's a musician, like Roberta Flack. The song is already formed. she's got the groove. We learn the song, and while you're learning it first time down, which is the secret too, so that it's a secret in a way. You know, whatever it is, if you're a musician, your first thought is usually the first one. And if you're a studio musician, you know that you're playing a part. So you're not just playing anything. You're trying to play a pattern. You got to make the arranger look like he did it. Like Quincy used to always say, "You guys make me look like a genius." We agree, but we don't care because he's successful, which means that here I come on his coattails. I was a bass player, so I don't care. I've been playing double scale. My wife is happy. The dog is happy. The branch is happy.
Now, if they gave you that title, yeah.
Yeah. But I love, you know, we've talked about this. I'm in love with music. I love to play the bass. And so, in my New York years, I would play for nothing at the drop of a hat. Because I love to play. And plus, I would want everybody to know I'm a bass player. I ain't just carrying it to sell it. I can play. Jam sessions, rating, you know, I can't pay you now, but if I do something, I ain't working. Let's give it a try. I just want to play the bass. This freaks me out just to feel this, man. Just I just love the way it feels. Like with my trumpet, I used to love the buzz on my lip when I play my trumpet. I would practice longer.
I love to play. I hate to practice.
Well, I don't like to practice unless I'm practicing with a drum machine or with a record. And the solo clinics that I do, I've got Santana. The music is just incredible to me. Incredible grooves.
This is where we part ways. I love Carlos. I really do. I've just never been a huge fan of his.
I can play my style on all this stuff easy. The Shaman album is right up my alley. I love that.
Well, now I got to be honest. I've never played any of his stuff.
No, but you have done some Latin stuff on Dropping in the Slot. There's that one. Total Afro-Cuban. Just
now,
masterful stuff.
Sometimes we don't label these things for genres because as soon as you do that, it reminds me of some of the records where I've been in charge or sessions where I've been in charge, and I would say to the drummer, let's put a Latin feel on this. And then I had this guy say, well, what kind of Latin you want? And he starts naming all the different categories of Latin. And then I say, hold it. Just make the shit sound Latin. I don't care what you. I don't know what you're talking about. The so and so this. Just like with reggae, you want this to be ska, reggae. I say,
just throw one of
give
them
me a
out
break,
there.
man. Make it sound like it's from Jamaica or Latin. You know, if you're a musician, you feel these things. And there's no title. As soon as you start naming things, these cats that come out of college are a pain in the ass. One thing they do in college in order to these guys to get their tenure for the tenure to be successful, you gotta learn all these things. I've done a lot of university clinics. First year bass student has to know how to play all the modes in 2 octaves. My question is why? I have never had to even entertain a mode unless I was taking a solo. And I'm not a solo and bass player. But the only mode for a bass player is the Ionian mode, which is Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. But now why does a freshman, first year student have to learn, unless they're in education, their degree is going to be in education.
Right.
Then you got to know these things. A bass player needs to learn how to walk the bass. Play me a bass line, or play me a 1-5-1 thing, or just play the rather than the mode. Number one, unless you have a piano player who's playing a chord, a major chord, and you're playing it, it makes sense. Major 7, and you start playing the modes. Now it makes sense. But now in real music, who plays a mode?
What the hell's a mode?
Mixolydian. Yeah, I'm going to put that in this this rock song.
Every note in the chord, like when he is C, C, D, E, F, D, A, B, C. If you start playing the scale in C, that's called the Ionian mode, which is Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. If you start the scale on D, that's the Dorian mode. And it fits a D minor chord. If you start on B, that's the third do, re, mi. If you start on mi, you start on the third degree of the scale. There's a fingering for it, and they call that the Phrygian do. What does a bass player need to know?
No, I've heard about these things, but I never knew exactly.
But I'm telling you, I'm looking at these guys in college. Also, too, I've had to, and you know, I'm not a rude person. I've had to be rude a couple of times. The school invites me and paying me to come and do a clinic because of my.
Because of who you are.
Because when I get there, the teacher or the person who hired me begins to tell me on what to talk about. And I have to say, I'm not being disrespectful. I said, but you hired me to come and talk about what I do and how I do it. I'm going to support what you do here, which I always do, but I do what I got to do. There's 32 drum rudiments, 24 drum rudiments, rhythm rudiments. Bass students have to know what these rudiments are. Rocco, I've been doing this for many, many years. I've only had to do a combination of 8 rhythms. Dum da da dum da da dum da 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 da, straight 16s da 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 da, triplets da 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 da, dotted 8 did the shuffles. All the rest of that shit don't mean nothing to a bass player. Why even talk about it? You know, and then you have students. And when you come there and you're free to do what you got to do, to say, well, the teacher has me doing so and so and so and so and how. I said, that's your teacher. He can do something that you can't do. However, I never think about that. Maybe you have to, but that's your teacher. That's like you telling me your father had you do so and so and so. Don't come to me with your father said. That's your father. You know, you can hear me say, my father didn't do that. But this is your teacher. So you have to get along with the teacher. You don't have to like him. A lot of people don't like their teachers.
If you want to pass.
But if you want to pass, but if you want to, you know, the teacher always knows something you don't know. And if you're smart, you go ahead and do what you're told to do for a minute. I did what I was told to do in high school and in college and at home. Once I got my own key in my car and what I was doing, then Chuck did what Chuck wanted to do based upon what I had to do. Right. A lot of nowadays, these people, I say this with gusto, these young people are full of shit. They want to arrive where you and I are in a year.
Oh, please.
Or 2 years. Or they think that because they're playing exotic bass, they're going to get gigs.
Well, just the whole music business and the way it's set up, you know, with these reality shows and these kids come in, it's like, what happened to paying dues and really molding your craft and being ready to be out there to be successful. You got to be ready for it. And that's why a lot of these young people, they get screwed up and they do drugs, they do this, they're not ready.
I told a kid one time, they would ask about drugs, but I'll talk about anything except politics, because that really starts to shake on. Talking about drugs, I gotta remind people, I'm old enough to be most students' grandfather, my father. And I'm talking from experience, not only with me, but with everybody that I know. If you're practicing drunk or drinking or smoking, your ass better be playing, smoking and drinking. Because there's 2 different set of mindsets. Also, too, when you're in Rome, you do what the Romans do. Because a lot of what you do is because someone likes you or because someone is not afraid of what you're looking at. Walter McDonald, they didn't want to, Jeffrey Carroll was the only person that could get high, knowingly. Because their music is so, I don't know what the word is, that they want to think that the reason this ain't happening is not because you're high. Because you just can't get it. A lot of people are that way. If you want to be a smoker, there's 2 things you got to understand. Smoke all the time. Or when you're in a room, do what the Romans do. If ain't nobody smoking, don't smoke, because you're going to be thinking a little bit different. Or if you are smoking, let it be undercover, so that someone doesn't think that because this ain't working, or it could be working, that when he's high. Don't blame it on being drunk or high.
That's true.
You have to really be politically correct, even if it's a secret.
Well,
You can't just throw shit in somebody's face.
well, I always tell young people, it's like, if you put in 3 years of getting loaded or whatever it is, it's going to take you twice as long to get out.
You get out.
Remember that. Just remember that. Because you're going to invest all this time.
I'd like to say one quick thing here about both you gentlemen, and I think the name of your CD really sums it up, and that's Interpretations of a Groove. That's what you guys is really your specialty. Chuck, your body work is just phenomenal. Rocco, your body work is phenomenal. You have put walking jazz straight out of Atlantic Records jazz walking parts against funk total background, which is, it's kind of like that James Brown thing where he was trying to tell the drummer, he goes, "Oh man, try this, do the da-da-da." And then they asked the drummer after, he goes, "How did that do?" He goes, "Well, when he came back and asked me to do it again, I played what I played the first time," and he loved it. Your perception of how you put things in, it fits where most times it wouldn't fit, and your interpretation of a groove on how you approach that stuff, both of you guys, it truly is masterful, and it's I don't know, it's like a spiritual thing. You guys are tuned in to things that most people, they don't get, but if you really listen, I hear things and I'm just like, I scratch my head. I'm a decent bass player. I can go out and work and gig, but man, to come from the place that you guys come from to create the body of works that you guys are, I think you're two of the greatest.
Well, that's very kind.
Mike, thank you. Spiritually, I didn't say anything about this. Everything that you heard me do, I didn't do any of it. All I did was prepare myself to be able to hear what I'm doing and whatever. Everything. I hear stuff that I play, that I look at my bass and I go, what? I can't figure it out. At the time that I did it, wherever I was, it came to me or through me.
Yeah, that was all the time for me too.
Yeah.
It's magical for you guys.
I don't
isn't
make
it?
up nothing. It all comes on what to play. But I am listening, though. I do listen, and all my answers are already in the music.
It's like the guy who carved Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, it's already
He
there.
said it's just there. We just had to bring it out.
Well, gentlemen, I think we're going to wrap this up. Chuck, thank you
What
so
a pleasure,
much.
man. Thank you so very, very much. I really appreciate it.
Maybe we can do this again sometime.
Oh, yeah. Anytime.
Mike?
Oh, love you, brother.
All right, buddy.
I am so blessed to be here with these two men. Well,
And, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and see you down the road.
What you say? Yeah! We get down in this. Go ahead. The straight line, too. We got Youngstown up in the house. Go ahead. We going that way. Go ahead.
Now if a tune's in the groove, y'all listen to me. Say you boogie and you make your move. A good music that grooves us is music that won't use us.